Good morning. Hello. Good morning. Uh, Thanks, Ed and Steve. My name is Michael Voidy. I'm here as a NANOG member and as the chair for the election committee. Today we're lucky to have three candidates on stage. I'll start with Benson Schleicher. Sleesher, Brad Ramo, thank you, and Patrick Gilmore. There are a total of five candidates on the website that you can vote for, and their names are also on there as well as these three gentlemen. I have the first question I have today is a two-part question, and I'm going to start with Brad.
Okay.
How did you join the network operations industry and start attending NANOG? Do you think it's easier or more difficult for new entrants into our industry?
So I attended my first NANOG, it was in Denver. I think it was in the 50s. I wanted to attend, so I started in the industry in the Network Operations Center at Limelight Networks. I was a level 1 NOC technician. I had zero experience in the industry. I actually used to repo cars before I got into this industry. I had a boss that took a chance on me and I got in. Like most people when they get into a NOC, they want to do as much as they can, build their career up and get out of the NOC. So I pushed as hard as I could and finally made it out of the NOC itself and focused on interconnection. I had a boss who was kind enough to invite me to my first NANOG. Once that happened, I instantly fell in love with the community and wanted to do as much as I could and attend as many as I could.
Excellent. Patrick?
I don't know why I don't have a microphone, but they put one on my shirt. So my first NANOG was a long time ago. It was actually in the 90s. And I was in the networking field for enterprises before that. I got a job at an ISP, national service provider, went to my first NANOG, and much like Brad, I fell in love with the community. I think it was a great way to get to know people. So I've always said that networking is not just about, router BGP foo. It's actually making people talk to each other, and then they make the routers talk to each other. And I've said this many times publicly and privately that I honestly believe there is something strange inside of a human being's head when they look another person in the eye physically close to each other. It's different than over video conference or over email or over phone or something like that. Just something changes that when I come to an NANOG and I see somebody in person, I shake their hand and I talk to them for even 5 minutes, then 6 months later and I need to call them up for some reason, things go better, they go smoother, and that's a big reason why I think NANOG is so important still to this day to this community. It was easy for me to get in, but I got really lucky. I got a sweet job that let me go and things like that, and a lot of people, even back in the 90s, didn't have such luck. Today, I actually think it's harder to get into NANOG. It's easier to get into the industry because there's lots of open jobs, especially at the lower levels, but it's harder to get into NANOG, and this is one of the things that I've been working on, and I think Edward is actually doing a good job changing inside of NANOG, but I think it's harder as a low-level employee to get the budget or whatever it takes to come to a place like NANOG, but I think it's vital for us to try and make that easier for people.
Thank you. Our second question, I'm going to again start with you, Brad. What do you think about the newcomers lunch, and do you feel that it succeeds in welcoming new participants?
So I think the newcomers lunch is great. I've been volunteering at it for several years now as a veteran to help introduce newcomers to the conference. I like the format. I think we could probably do a little bit more to make it more inviting for newcomers to attend the lunch. Currently, we have a sign, you show up, you have lunch, you sit down at a table with somebody who's been around for a while to give you a little information about NANOG, to answer any questions. I feel like we should be promoting it a little bit more than we actually are. Most of the people at that time are just trying to find a spot to eat lunch, in all honesty. So it's either you fall into the room with the newcomers lunch or you go to the general lunch. But I think we should be doing more to promote the newcomers lunch and to start making it even more welcoming than we already have.
Thank you for your response. Patrick, this next question is for you. What, if anything, should NANOG do to ensure that NANOG is diverse and inclusive going forward?
That's a tall order. So there's a lot of things that we could do, some things that we should do, and we are actually trying to do many of them. First of all, I think the code of conduct is a good example. There's lots of people that don't know certain things are bad. There's lots of people that have acted bad in the past, and there's things that we need to change going forward. But mostly what I want, and I'll be real honest, I'm not 100% sure how to reach this point, but mostly what I want is when somebody walks in, doesn't matter where they're from or what gender they are or anything else, they feel 100% comfortable being in here and talking to anyone else in the room. The only thing that should matter is, do you have good ideas and are you logical? And a lot of people say that, but the problem is that whether or not that's the goal, whether or not that's what NANOG stands for, you can still come in here and feel held back based on things that have happened 5, 10, 20 years ago, things that happened outside of NANOG. And so trying to figure out a way for NANOG to encourage people to get past that is a really good idea. The problem is, I'm a middle-aged white dude. So I don't understand, I've got ideas, but I don't understand exactly what it takes. This is why we reach out to people to do things like the Women in Tech Lunch, why we encourage people to, run for the board. I asked Susan to run for the board, and she got on, and now we have, more female voices on the board, things like that. And these are the kind of things that we need to do to make sure that that we can get that inclusiveness, because I'm not going to get the answer. I'm not the right person to ask to solve that problem. I'm just the person to ask to help whatever ideas you have to solve the problem.
Thank you, Patrick. Benson, this next one is for you. Can you elaborate on the experience and skill set that you possess that would help make NANOG more successful?
Well, I have some experience outside of NANOG. I won't recite my resume here, but there are a few experiences there that I think translate well. In particular, organizing groups of volunteers in, let's say, the IETF or in other volunteer organizations. Everything that happens here, don't get me wrong, the staff makes everything happen here, but it is really driven by the direction that the volunteer board and the volunteer program committee bring. So I think, frankly, that's the main thing I'll be able to bring, is the ability to bring people together, to lead without pushing, find a good balance there. I think also there's some things that NANOG needs to consider, and some of them I have more or less experience with, but ways to bring more education, it may be even formal education or certification. I don't know the answer there. I think also better tools for bringing people together. We have, to build on what the other two have said, we have a room of people, some of whom have known each other for a long time, some of whom are new and don't know how to get into the club, right? I think there are things we can do to make that easier. The newcomers lunch is certainly one of them, but there are maybe other tools that I have some experience with. I think we should bring to the community.
Thank you for your response. I'm going to tap you again for another question. Which of these potential topics would keep you up at night as a board member? NANOG meeting sizes, diversity, educational outreach, and financial solvency?
Well, all of them. I think to be fair, the one I would worry about the least is the attendance, right? If we put on a good program and we have good reasons for people to be here, people will come as much as the economy enables. So I think that'll be sort of my least concern. But if we start to dip off, that brings my concern up in the area of finances, right? We're driven by sponsorships, we're driven by members, and the money that members pay. If membership starts going down, sponsorship starts going down, right? We could be in a bad spot. We're not there right now, as far as I know, so I wouldn't worry too much. I think in terms of what I would focus the most on in the next few years would be diversity, inclusion, bringing in that next generation.
Thank you. Brad, this next one is for you. What are your top 3 initiatives you think NANOG should focus on?
So personally, I think the big 3 for me right now, in all honesty, is I'd like to see us bring younger engineers into the mix. I think right now, NANOG does a great job as it is right now, reaching out, putting on a great program. The PC, everyone on the PC has put in countless hours reviewing slides, presentations. We have a great program. I would like to see that program open up and start focusing on bringing in new blood into the industry. A lot of us have been around for a while. We need to have backfill. I think that really needs to happen. The other initiative I think we should really be focusing on, kind of ties into bringing in the new blood, would be diversity and inclusion. It is a big topic that I think we need to focus on. The third, I may get some pushback from people on it. I think we should be focusing on changing our meeting structures a little bit. I know this goes against a lot of people's viewpoints, but I think three meetings a year is too many. We're going to reach a point where I think our program is going to start getting watered down because we're trying to meet this 3 meeting a year deadline, and filling a program full of talks, I think it might be too much. And personally, I think we should maybe looking at maybe a biannual meeting as opposed to 3 times a year.
Thank you. This next question is for all 3 of you, and I'll start with Patrick. What is your most memorable NANOG moment or meeting?
I'm old, I don't remember them all. But I personally think the Hurricane Electric cake was pretty good. That was kind of memorable, kind of awesome.
Thank you. Brad?
Okay. There have been a few. I don't even remember the NANOG numbers anymore on which one it was. I think if I was to tie it all together, I would say the friendships that I've gathered from attending NANOGs. I've met more people face to face than I've ever have, and built long-lasting friendships from attending the meetings, and I think that's my biggest takeaway from all of them.
Thank you. Benson?
So this is easy because there's one that stands out, and it was my first NANOG meeting. As I said a bit ago, my company sponsored it, and I was tapped as the guy to make the network work. And it turns out that at that hotel, it was a mess from top to bottom. I had to run cross connects, I'm not exaggerating, next to a urinal in a men's room. There was an access panel on the wall. It was a strange couple days. But that was a lot of fun. The in the trenches building the network thing, especially a venue like this, it was cool. And collaborating with the NOC at the time and the folks who were involved from NANOG staff, everything was it was a great experience.
Thank you. My next question is going to be for Patrick, and this is a 2-part question. What have you brought participants into NANOG community or mentored new networking professionals in your day job? How could you help NANOG reach the next generation of networking professionals?
Have I brought people here? Many people, lots of people, some people in this room. Have I mentored people? I've tried, whether I was successful or not is up to them to say, but I go out of my way to make sure that the people who are trying hard, if they don't have the knowledge or they don't have the experience or they don't know what they're doing, but they're trying and they're looking for answers, I go out of my way to try and help them because that's the best way to get people comfortable to be here, right? And it's a little bit of a meritocracy, it's a little bit of a ego fest, but in general, people feel more comfortable when they actually feel that they have a good grasp of the subject matter at hand. And so I want to make sure everyone feels comfortable asking questions and everyone gets the answers without feeling condescended to. How do we bring more people in here? As I mentioned at the beginning, it's harder these days because some budgets are tighter, and Companies are bigger, and so if you have an engineering staff of 3, like we did in the 90s a lot of time, then sending 3 people is not a big deal. If you have an engineering staff of 300, then you might not go to a NANOG for 10 years, right? And I think one of the ways to do that, I'm very proud of the things that we've done with the educational outreach we've done, getting the students in here. We just had a student ask a question. By the way, Brad told me this, I'm not trying to take credit for it, but he pointed out that we just had a student ask a question at a keynote of Paul Vixie. I don't know if the guy knows who Paul Vixie was, but that's huge, that's enormous, it's very different than normal. And I like that everyone feels comfortable doing that. More ways to get people involved, I'm not sure, we're working on it, but most of our efforts tend to concentrate on the education side. I'd like to see us move a little bit more into like how do junior NOC techs get here, and I'm not sure how to answer that question yet, but it's something we should work on.
Thank you. My next question is for Brad. Strategically, what do you think are the biggest opportunities or challenges for NANOG as an organization, and what qualities do you bring to the board of directors to ensure a successful outcome for a NANOG membership?
Yeah, that's a lot. Can you repeat that first part again? I'm sorry.
Strategically, what do you think are the biggest opportunities or challenges for NANOG as an organization, and what qualities do you bring to the board of directors to ensure a successful outcome for the NANOG membership?
Wow. So I would think right now some of the biggest, without having purview of what's actually been dealt with on the board, I think some of the biggest issues I personally could see would be maintaining our attendance and growth, bringing in new people, and then also how do we get sponsorship? How do we get new companies to donate money to sponsor events? How do we focus on that? How do we continue doing what we're doing? I think that's the biggest focus, again, without having purview of what actually happens in the board. And then bringing in the college students and the immersion that we're working on with the college immersion, I think is going to be a big focus. To your second part, what I bring, I think, a different perspective. I come from a completely different background, completely different focus. I happenstance fell into the internet business. Was just dumb luck, fell into it and fell in love with it. I think I bring a different perspective. I come from a completely different background that hopefully will bring new ideas to NANOG, but then again, my ideas may not be the best. So what I can do is I can bring support. I've been on the PC now for, what are we at, almost 3-4 years? Something like that. So I've been a part of NANOG. I want to do it no matter what. If whatever happens with the election, I'm still going to try to volunteer and help out as much as I can. I want to see this organization succeed and continue to put on fantastic conferences going forward.
Thank you very much. Benson, this next question is for you. What role should NANOG play in developing the next generation of network engineers, and what could the NANOG board do to ensure that our community, what could the NANOG board do to ensure they see our community as positive, diverse, and inclusive? Sorry, that was a mouthful.
No, that's good. It's actually, I think, one of the hardest questions and most important for NANOG to address. I have some ideas. I don't know that they're the right ones, but as an example, we historically have focused NANOG on the meeting, NANOG. The mailing list has been a huge resource for so many people, but not everyone in our industry focuses on email anymore. I mean, frankly, most of my email is trash, right? I think there might be other ways. We have sort of the building blocks in our website with the profile tool and membership and things like that. We might have building blocks there that we could add to create other ways for people to get involved in NANOG, even if they're not at the meeting. Maybe access to more educational material online, the ability to establish small groups, to find people that are like-minded, have the same interest. I don't know all the details, but at a high level, I think there are a lot of opportunities there outside of the meeting, and that's probably where I would focus.
Thank you. Patrick, this next one is for you. How would you encourage community engagement?
Community engagement. That's a good question. I think we're a pretty engaged community. One of the things I like about NANOG is it's not 20,000 people, so you walk down the hall and you actually recognize half or more of the people if you've been here a few times. I think that the NANOG board, and honestly we went to the membership and asked them, but they agreed to make sure that there was a good social put on at every single NANOG is important. I think it's good to get out of, everybody sitting there staring at your laptops instead of watching the presentation. Yes, I see all of you doing that right now. And get into a social setting and, whether you have a drink or just talk to each other, just be outside of this. Hallway conversations are great, but let's get everybody into another place. But, like Benson was saying, and again, old dude, so maybe I'm not the right person to answer this, but the kids these days, get off my lawn, have new ways of engaging, whether it's, chat rooms or Instagram or whatever else it is. Getting something so that there is a way to communicate between people and lubricate individual one talking to individual two without resistance is very, very important. How we do that, we've already tried a few different ways. Some of them failed, some of them worked. We should keep trying to get each and every one of the community, not just the people in this room or the people at the conference, but everybody in the community to be able to talk to somebody else efficiently and without roadblocks in their way.
Thank you, Patrick. This next question is for you, Benson, and this is a two-part question again. How would you describe the NANOG community to a newcomer to NANOG? What is special and unique? How can they make new professional connections?
So I'd probably honestly start off by saying it's a bunch of old white dudes, as a way to break the ice and the tension around introducing yourself, get in front of people, say hello. I know for myself, going to any new event where I don't know people, it's not fun. So I think helping people get sort of past that barrier, finding people that are like them or people that are going to be nice to them, answer questions, introduce them to other people. I think that's a key. If you could remind me the second part of your question.
What is special and unique? How can they make new professional connections?
Oh, well, I think I almost answered that with my first answer, but this community, these are the people who make the internet work. Some of these people sell things to the people who make the internet work, right? There's a very concentrated set of maybe arcane knowledge at these events. I think if you attend NANOG for that, for that content, for that set of relationships and knowledge, you can make the most of it. I'm not sure I have much more to add.
That's good. Thank you. Our last question, and it's just for you, Brad. What makes you stand out as a potential new member of the board of directors?
That's kind of a difficult question. I don't like talking about myself. What makes me stand out, I think, if anything, is my drive to see this organization succeed. I've put a lot of time and hours into the program committee, previously the communication committee that we used to have before we disbanded it. I've put a lot of time and effort into making sure this isn't a successful event every time we have a meeting. I want to put that same drive and focus into making NANOG the best it could be. I think something that I bring to the table is a different outlook on how we continue down this path. I think I bring a new viewpoint in because I've come from a completely different background. I have different viewpoints. I focus on different things than other members of the board currently. Future members, I think just my diverse background will bring new blood into NANOG.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. That concludes all my questions for all three of you. We're going to wrap up here 3 minutes and 40 seconds early. For those NANOG members that are present in the room, you should have received an email this morning from the election committee advising you have 24 hours to vote. No, till
Wednesday
Wednesday,
at
correction,
noon.
thank you. That's correct. Tomorrow, you'll get a 24-hour, and then after that, you'll get a 4-hour. And please read this, what's on the screen. And if you have any questions, please send them to elections@nanog.org. I want to thank you, Benson, Brad, and Patrick, for coming up here and answering our election committee questions.
Thanks.